Добрый день, друзья и коллеги. Я счастлив вернуться в Киев. Спасибо Prime Group за приглашение поговорить с вами сегодня здесь, в Киеве. Ну, однако говорить прямо после президента города, но простое дело. Now, if you don't mind, I'll go back into my native English. Thank you. Right. But there's two advantages of presenting after Tom. The first one is that we have a lot of overlapping material, and so I'll be able to go quite quickly through it. Also, you will be able to get my presentation, which has a lot more data, because, you know, investment bankers were pretty boring. So there's a lot of data on mine. You'll be able to get it from either through Prime Group, or you'll see my email at the end, and if you want me to send you the presentation, I'm happy to do that. Very quickly before I start my presentation, I wanted to briefly talk to you about my fascination with advertising and how I ended up spending 31 years in the industry before I became an investment banker. So it's really very simple. When I was a small kid, as Tom and I are more or less the same generation, we had newspapers, magazines, radios, and TV. There weren't many billboards around, and I used to spend all day watching TV. And what I really enjoyed was watching advertising on television rather than the cartoons or the shows, which were mainly about cowboys killing Indians. I was fascinated by the stories that were told at the time in 20 seconds. So when I left university, I thought that this seemed like an ideal job for a young man who really didn't want to work for a living. And I actually got my first job at Grey Advertising because I was wearing quite a nice suit, more or less like this one. During the interview, and the managing director said to me, "Wow, that's a really nice suit you're wearing. Do you have any more?" And I said, "Yeah, I have two more just like it." And he said, "Okay, you're hired." Which only goes to prove that you don't need to be very smart, nor do you have to get good grades at university to succeed in business. Now, to talk about the tendencies for the future of media for the next 5 to 10 years, I wanted to bring my crystal ball with me, but they wouldn't let me take it through customs at Madrid airport yesterday. So to move on to the hard facts, in the next 5 years, I'm sorry to disappoint most of you, but you will see everything's going to go more or less as you expect. Okay, so I think if you look at all of this data, I would take your attention to say the traditional out-of-home, this is not including digital, and cinema are going to stay more or less the same. We're going to see most of the rest of the media, television, print, and radio all decrease slightly. And there will be small increases in virtual reality, OTT video games, and esports. But to be honest with you, I hear a lot of people hyping this, especially from creative agencies, and I get it, and it's something very saleable to your clients. But you're coming from a very low beginning. So although there's going to be growth, I don't think in monetary terms it's going to mean that much for the industry over the next 5 years. So as you can see, however, there will continue to be continued growth in global digital ad spending, reaching about 60% of all media spending in 2023. But as you can see, that growth, okay, so this is how it's going to grow. But as you can see, the growth year by year, it's going to level off over the next 5 years, and it will slow down. Okay. In any case, digital is now the dominant ad spend in countries like the UK, China, Norway, Canada, the US, the Netherlands. Russia this year is actually going to go past 50% for the first time. And Latin America and Southeast Asia still have a long way to catch up. For those of you who like hard numbers, again, you can get a copy of my presentation. and it's on there. So the real challenge for advertisers and agencies, I don't believe that the real challenge for advertisers and agencies is in the growth of digital marketing, because you're already there and you're inside it. The challenge you're facing is this oligopoly, right? So I know the word oligopoly means a lot in this part of the world, right? But there's an oligopoly on the sell side with very few major players who dominate digital media sales and therefore are able to charge ever higher prices for the campaigns. And this is one area which, as I will show you later, we see a huge opportunity for savvy out-of-home media owners and groups who can digitalize and build their own strong programmatic sales platforms. I know from some conversations I've had with Prime Group in the past that that's something that they've been involved in putting together here in Ukraine. So you're already on the path. Okay, distinctions are blurring. As I only have a 20-minute slot, I don't want to go into too much detail. But the difference between different media types and channels are blurring, and this is bringing about phenomena such as VR journalism in the US. So it's basically now that on the online editions of the New York Times, Washington Post, and so on, you can have a VR experience and you can get immersed inside the news. And importantly, I think media owners and agencies need to completely rethink every aspect of what they're doing to be able to have the access to the right technology and premium content delivered in a cost-effective manner to an audience that's engaged with the brand. Convergence. Okay, I don't know how many of you have read the book Blue Ocean Strategy. I don't know if you can translate that into Blue Ocean Strategy. Okay, what's the bad news for most of the people in this room is that you're going to be working in an even more red ocean as time goes on, with increasing convergence between traditional media companies who are fighting for market share against newcomers such as Netflix, Amazon, Prime, Google. And on the other side, you have the already existing TV companies, the telecoms, the tech companies, OTT operators, movie studios, all competing to provide video content. 5G, okay, Tom's already spoken about this. So I would just like to say that I think it's going to revolutionize, from my point of view, it revolutionizes content because of the speed of 5G, and that's going to enable the evolution of virtual and augmented reality across devices. And from an investment banking or a mergers point of view, there are two interesting things going on there. T-Mobile recently acquired the broadband video startup Layer 3, and that's going to enable it to launch internet-delivered television across the US, powered by 5G. And Sprint is, in fact, already making Hulu available in some of its packages, and that's going to drive further consumption once 5G comes to fruition on Sprint. So over the next 5 years, data traffic levels are going to grow by an absolute whopping 22.3% compound annual growth rate, okay, reaching 397.8 trillion megabytes in 2022. Okay, the growth in data consumption can be attributed to consumers' growing appetite for video content, which will account for 85.6% of total data consumption in 2022. Putting the me into media. Very basically, consumers are using an expanded array of connected devices to organize, curate, and discover their own world of media. And in response, the companies are tailoring their offerings to revolve around people's personal preferences, so that now data and data usage, it's about pitching products at audiences, not at audiences of billions, but at billions of individuals. Shifting behaviors are forcing content creators and distributors to devise new ways of engaging with consumers. For me, there are two possible game changers here. On OTT, I can see that there could be a very large opportunity for blending OTT with e-commerce. And on brand marketing, I think that's, there's going to be a huge opportunity for brand marketing to get involved in esports and gaming. So what are 7 global trends that are changing the media landscape? The mobile internet advertising revenues now outweigh the wide equivalent. Mobile video is becoming increasingly important. Mobile soars with smartphone data consumption now overtaking fixed broadband in 2020. By 2023, all marketers will allocate more than 50% of their budgets to digital advertising. Over the next 5 years, China's absolute growth will exceed that of the US for the first time, and China will overtake the US to become the world's largest smart speakers market by 2021. If you don't know what a smart speaker is, it's one of these things that people have in their house and you ask it to do something, open the door, and put on the oven, find me this music. Okay, so this is a huge phenomenon in the US, and next year China will be a bigger market than the US. And finally, we're going to see Asia Pacific overtaking North America as the largest OTT market by 2021. Actually, this information, we got it from an article that was done by somebody on Tom's staff. I think it was in digital signage. So, again, I'm not trying to steal your content, but we thought it was really interesting and extraordinarily relevant. A very well-written article by Ocean Outdoor. And we completely agree with this. On one side, we're going to see a much closer collaboration between digital out-of-home companies and city authorities to get information and messaging out there. And on the other hand, we're going to see how smartphones are going to tie in with digital out-of-home displays to give people information, payment opportunities, and possibilities to interact with brands, especially with increasing e-commerce opportunities. So in fact, we have a client right now who's asking us to help them change the advertising that they have in bus shelters in their country to actually turn that using through a QR code into an e-commerce platform, right? So the digitization of out-of-home will see beacons placed on outdoor structures using Bluetooth technology to connect with mobile devices. Tablets inside Uber, Careem, Lyft, and Grab are going to allow brands to reach higher value passengers. The quality of the displays and digital displays, generally speaking, and I think this is another thing that is very important. Before, some of the speakers were talking about how important it is for brands to be eco-friendly. Out of home as an industry is going to become more eco-friendly because there's going to be a prevention of paper wastage and a significant factor driving the growth of digital signage in the market. And of course, programmatic media buying will allow buyers to plan and execute moniker campaigns across multiple media platforms. So in fact, this is happening to such an extent that media agencies are already changing their team structures to accommodate more programmatic trading in out-of-home as a way of looking for new ways to adapt to building and planning digital campaigns. Agencies are calling on out-of-home owners to provide more digital inventory to trade programmatically. And apart from the other problems that WPP has, which I'm not going to get into right now, WPP's Group M, I think very smartly, has decided to make a big change in the internal way it handles media, because digital out-of-home now delivers a number of campaigns that are programmatic only. Okay, so very briefly on the UK market, which Tom knows a lot better than I do. In the numbers that we have, Tom, is that traditional out-of-home in the UK is going to grow 6.9% this year, compared with 13.4% for digital out-of-home. Does that sound right? Okay, great. Going back to what we said earlier about the concentration of digital ad sales with these huge monsters who have the complete control of the market. And then there's another 6 or 7 that are challenging them. We think this is an opportunity for smaller direct-to-consumer brands that are starting to turn to digital out-of-home because search and social media are just getting far too expensive for them. It's not making sense. So what are our key predictions for next year? Again, programmatic will go mainstream. There will be more programmatic trading of fast-moving consumer goods and direct-to-consumer products, especially these direct food things that we're looking at, Deliveroo, Uber Eats, and so on. Budgets are going to flow from new sources as advertisers increasingly see it as a digital medium, and the DTC players see it as a huge brand-building opportunity for them. Trust is converting ever more new players because out-of-home delivers contextual, brand-safe environments as well as proven business results. Advertisers and agencies see the synergies between digital out-of-home and other mediums such as mobile, social media, and broadcast. Agencies and platforms increasingly change their structures to accommodate digital out-of-home. Okay. It's great when the pieces of paper get stuck. There we go. So media owners will continue to convert their inventory, but at a pace that is still slow for many buyers, whether on the agency side. So there's now more demand for digital and programmatic inventory from the agencies than a lot of out-of-home media providers can put in the market. Okay, so to talk a little bit about my stuff, right? So on mergers and acquisitions, there's going to be, we think there's going to be a huge growth globally in media-related mergers and acquisitions, as there's going to be a convergence of geographies, convergence of access, and a consolidation of content and a need to grow the content base. Some couple of recent mergers that have taken place. I know sometimes the numbers seem mind-boggling. $85.4 billion merger between AT&T and Time Warner. And Disney is out intent to acquire most of the assets of 21st Century Fox. And these are the kind of deals that are setting the precedent for future media and entertainment consolidations in the next 5 years. Okay, I'm going to toot my own horn for a moment. A little bit about us, Severnaya Group. We started business last December, so we're a very new company. We work on mergers and acquisitions in the technology, media, and telecommunication spaces. Within that, our core business is media, but because of the way media works now, technology and telecommunications are often companies that we need to talk to as well. We have a very clear geographical focus, which are the ex-Soviet Union countries in the Middle East. And within our media practice, these are the partners, okay? We're wholly owned by partnership by the three partners who run the company. Within our media practice, we advise companies in advertising and marketing services on the one hand, but we also work quite a lot with retail tech and in-store media, which is interesting to a lot of advertisers. Right? However, at the moment, from a financial standpoint, about 80% of our ongoing transactions are in out-of-home media, and our clients are typically looking to reach scale and be able to break out of doing their business in their own country. How much longer?
Couple of minutes.
How many?
Couple of minutes.
Couple of minutes. Okay. So I will try to skip to why are we specifically focused on the out-of-home market? Because it provides a higher reach than any other medium. Because for our investors, we calculate that it's going to grow 12.6% until 2023. APAC's obviously going to have a higher growth as it's going from way behind. Okay. According to Magna, all the other kinds of advertising are going to decline by at least 10%, except for combined digital and out-of-home, which remains steady at about 4.2. Lack of there's no audience fragmentation in out-of-home, so it's a great sales proposition for our clients. Let's move on. Okay, I think this is another thing very important that hasn't been discussed yet, which is you can't block out-of-home media, and there's more and more ad blocking, which was up in some of the presentations on digital. Okay, 1 in 4 Americans shared a poster or an image of an outdoor ad on Instagram. And then very quickly, I just wanted to talk about autonomous cars. There's lots of parts of Western Europe where there are no out-of-home supports once you leave the city limits. So the introduction of autonomous cars, we think that's going to change that a lot, because it's going to mean that there isn't an issue about driver distraction. So there's going to be an opportunity to put greater inventory out there. Okay, I had some other things to talk about, but most of them have been covered before. Rapid consolidation. So yeah, in the UK, there's been rapid consolidation, as Tom knows very well, where Global went out and bought 3 other companies. Global was a radio company, and it's now gone out and bought 3 outdoor companies, so it has a very interesting go-to-market proposition. In Spain, this Redex has already been bought by Exterior Plus, and it's now looking for a buyer, and we're talking with them. Okay, just a couple of other ones that most of you may know about, but Broadsign and IUDA merged 2 complementary platforms to streamline static and digital out-of-home operations for media owners, so the combined company can allow out-of-home media owners to manage, sell, and deliver all of their advertising content from one single solutions provider. This one, I think, is very relevant to the conversation. This is the kind of different sort of merger that you're going to see happening in the market. Netflix, they came up with an idea, which is, instead of buying campaign after campaign in a premium price along the Sunset Strip in Los Angeles, why not go out and buy the 35 most spectacular assets for themselves, which they can also market to other non-competing brands. Okay. Finally, just 2 slides to go. Okay. There's a global phenomenon. So although I've given an American one, we are seeing this a lot with some of the businesses that we work with in the Middle East. Tower operators are emerging as new buyers of outdoor companies or investors in the out-of-home industry, because the lessons that they learn as tower operators are transferable to out-of-home, including regulatory skills to negotiate the permit process with the municipalities, and also their lease administration skills to manage a large portfolio of sites. So spasiba vam, spasiba Kiev, and I hope to be again here next year. Thank you.